Good day, everyone. This is Rita Choi, founder of Asia HRM. How are you doing? My name is Rita Choi, right? I'm the founder of Asia HRM, and Asia HRM is a human resources community for Asia, focusing on leadership and coaching. We are advocate for coaching. Our vision is to make coaching affordable and accessible to everybody in the world. That's why we have a coaching platform called Coaching Engage Plus, connecting qualified coaches with their potential clients. We also have AI augmented coaching. If you want to know more about our services, just let us know. Starting April this month, right? We have a new series on sustainability. Sustainability is very important to our heart. It talks about planet, people, and profits. And in our first session, our speakers talked about the foundation of sustainability. Why is it so important? And this time, we have something different. It's about in a corporate world, how are we going to do about it? How are we going to embed sustainability into corporate strategy? And our speaker is a very seasoned uh, practitioner in this area. Of course, he also has a lot of talents in different disciplines. He is Mr. Eman Wong, Vice President of JIG Family Office, Wealth Management Manager, AIA. He's the founder and director of two ESG consulting firms for over 3 decades. He's very experienced in what he's doing. And without further ado, I would love to pass the control to Yeman, so that he can walk through the topic of the day. Thank you, Iman. And for those who have joined us, just feel free to say hi to us.
Okay. Thank you, Rita. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, no problem.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So thank you again for everyone joining this session on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Eman Wong.
Yes, Iman, you can continue. Iman, you there? Hello, Iman. We have some technical issue here. Iman, you're there? Okay, I think we have experienced some technical issue. Let me connect with Iman to see if he can go back to the stage here. So while we are waiting for Yemen to join us, actually for our series, we have focused on different areas. Like we also have topics about environment, we have a topic about social, which is more about employee well-being, DEI, and so on. And more importantly is about the governance. How are we going to promote this governance culture in our organization is also very important. So if you really want to know more about all the sustainability in these areas, just feel free to join us in all our sessions. Now it seems that we have lost Eman, so just bear with us for 1 or 2 minutes so that we can welcome him back to the stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Eman. Yes, we can hear you, but are you going to upload your slides so that you can walk us through the slides one by one?
Okay, hold on a second.
Sure. And we are very sorry for the technical issues that we just experienced.
Yeah, hopefully the session will still go well. I'm not sure whether what happened to my PC. So let's see whether we can actually continue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Yeah, go ahead, Eman.
Okay, do call me again if I actually drop out. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I was actually on this page just now. So I'm actually talking about, we will actually share about our strategic why of how the HR team will be able to embed the strategy into your corporation. And then last is we'll actually talk a bit around the family office. How would the family office be able to accelerate the journey through the sustainability journey for different family as well as corporation? Can you still hear me? I'm still here, right?
Can,
Okay, good.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So before I move on, I just want to do a quick poll with all of you. I want to understand where you are from so that I can actually be able to share a bit more based on your location and see whether you are in different location, because in terms of sustainability, the situation is actually quite different in different countries. So if you wish, if you can, please scan the QR code here on the screen and join me on Slido and just do a poll and tell me where you are from. Okay, let's just wait for a few minutes for everyone to scan the QR code and and send your poll here.
Eman, we cannot find the code here because you're moving your slide.
Hold on a second. Can you see it now?
Can.
Okay, just use your phone and scan the QR code here, and just pick on the country that you are from. Okay, there's one from Hong Kong. Who else?
So Eman, I think they may not as responsive as what you thought. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay if you don't want to interact with me now, but I just want to make sure that I understand where you're from, and then I can actually share a bit more around the specific situation in your country. So it's okay. If you are okay, you can also type in your country on the comment window so that at least I know where you are from, if this is work better for you. Let's just wait for a few more minutes and see if you can actually give me a few responses, no matter it's on the comments or on the Slido. All right. So it seems that we have a very shy group here. So that's okay. Let's move on. So let's talk a bit around the strategic why. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the sustainability issue. So I just want to spend maybe around 5 minutes to talk about the strategic why. Some people may actually know about it, and some may not. So I just want to set the bottom line that we all actually set the common stage that where we are actually talking about the sustainability issues here. So of course, from a sustainability standpoint, the major issue is around the climate change, right? So climate change is the most important environmental risk that we are facing right now. So from a global warming and extreme weather standpoint, so the climate change has been actually affecting the life on the earth as well as a lot of the human activities here. So since the second industrial revolution, so the climate and the weather has been actually changing a lot. And the major reason is around the greenhouse gas effect. So if you have been actually studying around physics or geography, you know a bit around the greenhouse effect. Is the atmosphere that the emission of different greenhouse gases that actually keep the earth actually warmer than what we used to be. So for the past 20 years, the climate has been actually still rising, and the temperature has been keep raising. And this actually affects a lot of the areas in the world, especially in Southeast Asia. I think you all actually has been actually experiencing different type of tsunami, typhoon, or different type of natural disasters that are actually due to global warming. So right. So in order to actually combat the climate changes, we need to reduce the emission from all our human activities. So let's come to the concept around the greenhouse gas emission. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the greenhouse gas emission. So there are different type of greenhouse gas emission if actually defined from a scientific standpoint. So this is very important because if we don't know around what type of greenhouse gas emission we are actually producing on a daily basis, then there's no way we can actually come back. How can we actually reduce the emission? So there are different scope of greenhouse gas emission. There are scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So you may heard of those terminology on some of the different seminar or different on the news that we actually talk about how to actually reduce those greenhouse gas emission from a corporate standpoint or from a country standpoint. So it's actually very simple if you actually look at the concept, right? Scope 1, the emission is around the direct emission of all different human activities, no matter from your company facility or from a company vehicle. You are actually directly emitting the different greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, no matter it's a carbon dioxide or methane or nitrogen dioxide, so etc., etc. So those are the direct emission from our human activities. And then we will also talk about the scope 2 indirect emission. So scope 2 is around the indirect emission that we actually on all our human activities. So mostly it's around our purchased electricity, steam, heating, and cooling from our own users. Because when you use, for example, you are using your computer, you're turning on your air conditioning in your room right now, you are not doing the direct emission during your human activities. But indirectly, you are still actually emitting the greenhouse gases into the atmosphere because the production of the electricity will also bring about the emission of the greenhouse gases. So in that sense, you are still indirectly emitting the greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So this is called the indirect emission. And then the last scope 3 is also around indirect emission, but this is including the upstream activities as well as the downstream activity that is actually produced by either your product or services by a corporation. So very simple example, if you are actually running a factory, if you actually ship the factory product to your end customer, so most likely you actually transport the products into your end customer through ship or through air flight, right? So those are indirect emission that will actually producing the carbon emission. So those will actually categorize under the scope 3 emission. And then, of course, if you actually running a factory, if you actually need to produce some of the products, you also need to buy some of the raw materials from other country. So the shipment of those raw materials from the home country to your country will also have a emission because of the transportation, right? So those will also be classified as scope 3 emission. And the reason we actually need to look at the different scope of the emission, because from a corporate standpoint, we actually need to calculate and report around all the different scope of emission. So hopefully this will actually give you a quick overview around all the different scope of the carbon emission in your different human activities. You can actually look at this website to actually understand a bit more around what does it mean by all the different scope of emissions. Okay, so in order to mitigate the regulatory risks, right? So it's around how do we actually in the ESG era, how do different corporations will actually align with the ISSB or IFRS framework in order to enforce the mandatory disclosure standards. So different country, different jurisdiction, they actually have different pace of work in order to mitigate the regulatory, in order to enforce the different corporation on different regulatory requirements, right? So, for example, in Hong Kong and Singapore, we actually have a lot of the regulatory requirement already from an ESG reporting standpoint, right? So, for example, in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange require all the listed company actually need to provide the ESG or sustainability report on an annual basis when they actually report their annual report, right? So it's a mandatory requirement. And then in Singapore, of course, as well, listed company is a mandatory requirement. But from a jurisdiction standpoint, different jurisdictions, they are also enhancing their regulatory requirements. So for example, for Singapore, so they actually require some of the larger non-listed company, they actually need to do the reporting by 2027 as well. And then for Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, they also expanded the climate disclosure scope as well. So now in Hong Kong, some of the larger corporations, they are also required to report the scope 3 greenhouse gases emission as well. And then for Australia and Japan and some other country, in all the different countries that you are in, you will also have different requirements based on your local jurisdiction. So then that means from an ESG or sustainability standpoint, a lot of time, even from a regulatory standpoint, you also need to consider how you can actually improve the ESG performance of your company. And that's why a lot of the company has a very strong focus around the ESG as well as sustainability. So from a risk management standpoint, of course, if you actually does not comply with all those regulatory requirements, you will have some financial fine. You will actually have the risk of actually getting the fines from the regulatory bodies, right? And then on the other hand, you will also running a risk of running a higher capital cost, because from a sustainability standpoint, if you can actually improve the sustainability, some of the financial institutions will actually provide some cheaper capital for you to run your business. So this is called a green loan. So a lot of the jurisdictions, they also have a lot of financial institutes, they actually provide green loan for different company so that they can actually reduce their cost of capital as well. And then thirdly is around the reputational risk as well. So if you actually running into a non-compliances to a lot of the regulatory requirement, that will be running to a lot of reputational risk as well. So if you actually want to maintain your reputation as a company as well, so that's why you also need to consider the regulatory risk. So this is one of the more like a regulatory requirement in order to reduce the risk of your company towards a different area. And then the second one is actually more concern for HR professional here, is that how can we actually unlock the talent capital in your country, right? So ESG could be a key differentiator for you to attract different type of talents into a company. So according to a few resources, a few researchers, that means that a lot of the potential employees, they will actually consider ESG as one of the criteria when they actually choose for a different employer. And then some of the people will actually like to take a pay cut to work for a company with a strong sustainability. And then in terms of the retention rate, so from some of the research, we're saying that almost 25% of higher employees will have a more high retention rate for a robust ESG program in place in the corporation. So that means from an HR standpoint, if you can actually improve the ESG performance of your company, that means you will be able to attract more talents as well as retaining talents in the company. So this is another incentive for everyone in order to improve your ESG. So this is more around the why, right? So then we'll actually dive a bit more into how can we actually improve the the ESG performance from an HR standpoint. So there we'll share some of the key levers to how, as an HR professional, how you can actually improve the ESG performance of your company. Now, I think a lot of you actually have seen this sustainable development goals, right? So this is all the SDG goals defined from the United Nations of how can we actually improve the sustainability of different countries. So there are a total of 17 different sustainability goals, and a lot of the ESGs aware of a company, they will actually use this as a framework to help to improve the sustainability of different corporations. Now, different people or different company have different focus, right? So some people may be focusing on how to reduce the poverty, how to actually achieve zero hunger, or how to actually improve the quality education of different companies. So different corporations should have different focus. And the major question is, how should we actually determine which focus are we in, right? So let's take a look at how to actually define the strategy from a different company standpoint. So this is a very important concept. We call the materiality analysis. If you are actually in the accounting standpoint, you will actually know about what does it mean by materiality, right? So materiality is the concept is that what this actually means to be important and critical from a company standpoint. So we actually need to do a materiality analysis in order to define what is actually material to different company, right? So because different industry should actually have different material or important ESG areas that you actually need to be focusing on. So let's take, for example, if you are actually in the F&B industry, and so your focus will be actually very different from running a factory, right? And if you're actually running a professional services, for example, then your focus will also be very different. So throughout my ESG consultation, I've been actually working with different corporations to actually, in order to help them to actually do a very thorough materiality analysis so that as a corporate standpoint, they will actually know about what kind of material ESG focus they actually should be focusing in. So there are different ways to actually do this materiality analysis, right? One of the very important ways you can do an internal research, right? So you can actually do an internal research, and you can actually need to interview with a lot of the different internal departments in order to arrive, well, how should we actually evolve if we want to improve the sustainability of our company? What kind of material issue we actually need to take a look in order to improve the sustainability, right? And then on top of that, we actually encourage a lot of companies to do a stakeholder analysis, because from a stakeholder analysis standpoint, you will know about that from a sustainability standpoint, which is actually not just a company issue. We need to engage with your stakeholder, no matter it's your customer, your supplier, or your some other community or your or other stakeholder in your area. So we need to have a holistic picture in order to arrive at a thorough material analysis, so that you will be able to understand what is the true critical issue that you actually need to focusing on. And there are some other different type of standards you actually can take a look. So this is not a full training. So if you are interested, you can actually contact with me later. So that there are some international standard you can actually refer to, so that you can approximately understand from different industry standpoint that what kind of material analysis you should be able to focusing on. Okay. And this is sample materiality matrix. So if you actually look at some of the ESG or sustainability report from different company, you will see something similar like this, right? So for a materiality matrix, normally you will have two matrix, two dimension. So on the x-axis is around the importance to business, and then on your y-axis is around the importance to stakeholders. Then you will actually do an analysis to see what kind of issue will be actually of high priority to both the business as well to your stakeholder. And on this materiality matrix, definitely then your focus will be on your upper right quadrant. So for this example, energy use and greenhouse gas emission, as well as the cybersecurity, number 5, and then number 6 is around the climate resilience, as well as number 7, environmental impact of products and services. So those will be the utmost important material issue that as a company standpoint, you need to be focusing on. So on this, I just want to introduce the concept to you around the greenwashing as well. If you actually heard about these terminologies before, greenwashing is something that you're actually trying to do the green or sustainable issue, but it's just doing on a mouth surfaces or lip surfaces basis. That means you are just trying to do something to impress your audience or stakeholder, but those sustainability issue is actually not material at all. So in this case, for example, if you're actually focusing a lot of your issue around the trade barrier, this is around issue number 15 here, or issue around 14 around human rights. So those are of much less importance to your business, also much less importance to a stakeholder, but you choose to focus on some of the less material issue there. So potentially, your stakeholder will actually accuse you that you're actually doing the greenwashing. So that's why the materiality analysis is so important, that you're actually focusing your attention on all your resources to focus on the most material issue for your company. And I would just list out some of the very common ESG focus for HR, because all your platform here today joining us is from HR. So that's why let's take a look around some of the common focuses for all the HR professional. If you actually look at from an ESG standpoint, both from an environmental, social, and governance standpoint, those are some of the very important issues that a lot of my clients actually focusing on. For example, for governance, diversity, equity, and inclusion, executive compensation, CMB, succession planning, ethics and code of conduct, performance management, those all will actually fall under the governance issue. How we can actually improve the governance of the company in order to actually tackle those issues that is actually so important from a governance standpoint of the company. And then around social, right? Social, I think social, traditionally from an HR standpoint, we actually take a lot of focus around the social issue, no matter for talent acquisition, training and development, employee wellness program, employee engagement, CSR activities, as well as change management, right? So governance and social definitely is a strong HR focus. And then around environmental, some of the HR professional, they actually look at and help with the administration department as well of the company. And then, so from an environmental standpoint, if you can actually set on some sustainable procurement policy, can also help to improve the environmental protection of the company. So from actual levers, right, how to actually embed the sustainability towards the company. So those are the 5 different areas that will actually advocate for all of you to actually can be focusing on. So I will actually take a look around them one by one. The first is around the employer branding, and then around training and development, succession planning, incentive and reward, as well as sustainable procurement. So let's take a look around those levels one by one. Employer branding, right? So employer branding is actually very important in terms of how we can actually ensure that our stakeholders as well as our customer understand how to actually do the sustainability on a regular basis. So this is so important that how can we actually make sure of all the different promotion vehicle in order to help our customer as well as stakeholder to understand how do we actually achieve our sustainability. So of course you can use your website, use your social medias, use any kind of promotional materials in order to promote the sustainability of your brand name. So I just quote 2 examples here. One is Patagonia and the other one is Pepsi company. So for Patagonia is a very ESG focused company. I think in a lot of the different sustainability survey, Patagonia is actually ranked almost the top brand name in terms of how they actually achieve their sustainability. So this is one of the example. They actually there was one of the front page advertisement they actually did many years ago. This is called a "Don't Buy This Jacket" promotion. So this is a very sarcastic promotion they actually did almost 10 years ago. They actually published this advertisement in the New York Times, and they actually trying to actually promote people against buying their jacket. So they said, don't buy what you don't need. Think twice before you buy anything. So this is actually aligned totally with how they actually think around the sustainability issue. Because from Patagonia's standpoint, they really actually trying to help to ensure the durability of their garments, so that for people buying the jacket, they will be able to enjoy the longevity of their jacket as well as their garment. So, and also they actually build on a system to actually help to repair and trying to repair the jacket that they actually bought it, so that they don't need to buy a new jacket. Even for a jacket, if the zipper or some of the things that is broken, they can actually fix it easily. So this is the kind of strategies that the Patagonia pick on, and they actually do this promotion. And the funny thing is that after they do this promotion, the sales volume actually increased around 20 to 30% after they did this promotion. So this is something that they actually put in the they execute their strategy well, that they are actually not doing the greenwashing. They really actually trying to execute what they actually believe on. And this is very famous example of Patagonia. And then the other one example is around Pepsi company. Pepsi company is also a very sustainable brand name. And they actually, this is one of the world's most ethical company. This is one of the award they actually get on 20 times on this survey, and they actually do some promotion in their website. So you can actually go to the Pepsi company and you can see that they actually have a lot of different story they actually promote around the brand name. And the important thing is that they are not just promoting for the sake of promoting, because their company is really a very ESG focused brand name, and they actually do a lot of the initiative and strategy in order to improve the sustainability of the company. Okay, so this is around employer branding. So I think I need to move a little bit fast because we are running out of time. Training and development, right? So I think from an HR standpoint, we spend a lot of different resources to help to improve the skills and knowledge of our talents in the company, right? So how can we actually use training and development to actually equip our workforce to improve the ESG knowledge as well? So this is actually very important as well. How can we actually utilize different resources, no matter internal or external? You can actually partner with some of the external consultancy firm in order to help to improve the sustainability knowledge as well as skills of your talents. Because the awareness is only the first step, right? After the awareness, how can we actually improve the sustainability of our company is a big issue. So we need to actually provide different training and development to it in order to help different level of employees to improve their ESG competency. So most likely you can actually, if you're actually doing competency model, you can actually integrate the ESG into your competency model so that different company, different talent, they can actually develop their talents accordingly to your competency model so that you can actually integrate the ESG and sustainability into your day-to-day work. And then from a development standpoint, all the different talents, they will know how they should actually develop their competency towards the sustainability. And the third is around succession planning, right? So if you are actually in the succession planning as well as talent management, I think a lot of the companies spend a lot of money as well as resources into succession planning. But some of the challenges, do we actually help this next generation of your company to understand how they can actually retain the sustainability of your company? So I quote here one of the famous example here in Hong Kong. This is one of the New World development. If you actually understand some of the reason the succession planning, they actually ran into some hiccup as well. So this is the Henry Jen. They actually set on some of the succession planning in order to actually pass on the leadership in order to one of the son. This is Adrian, right? But they actually run into some of the issue that Adrian actually left the company, and now they actually put on an external leader in order to head up the company. So I think there are a lot of different issues. So we don't have time to dive into this case here, but I think I just want to actually raise the issue is that a lot of different companies actually running into different succession planning issue. And in order to actually run on a very robust succession planning, we actually need to ensure that the next generation, they also need to actually embrace different area in order to how they can actually ensure the sustainability of the company, no matter from a financial standpoint, from a environmental protection standpoint, as well as from a social standpoint, right? So there are a lot of different angle you actually need to look at the succession planning in order to help the company to be able to be sustainable into the future. Okay, this is the level 4. This is around incentive and reward, right? So from a C&B standpoint, I think I don't need to actually tell you about how important it is, right? So from a leadership, from a senior management, from all the middle management down to junior level entries, will actually set on different incentive program in order to how to actually encourage the sustainable behavior, right? So from a leadership standpoint, of course, you actually need to design different incentive and reward in order to award the right behavior, how they actually improve the leadership from an ESG standpoint, how they align the ESG objective to the strategy, right? But from a ground level, from a junior level of employees, you also need to implement some of the appropriate level of reward in order to improve the performance of your ESG performance. So this is, I think, a lot of the heavy lifting work, if you will, in order to revise and improve the incentive and reward of your company in order to improve the in order to encourage the sustainable behavior of your employees. And last but not the least is around sustainable procurement, right? So in order to help your company to achieve your ESG goals, so sustainable procurement is also very important. If we just talk about the scope 3 emission, if in order to actually help to improve the scope 3 emission, you actually need to ensure that all your supplier also need to provide sustainable result, as well as reducing the emission of all your supplier. So if you actually set on some of the specific supply ESG assessment criteria in order to ensure that all your supplier can attain certain level of ESG requirement, can also improve the overall performance of your company. So last but not the least is around the family office edge. How can we actually improve the sustainability of different company and different offices? So I'm actually an ESG consultant. I actually help different family as well as corporate to improve the sustainability. So if you actually look at from a triple bottom line standpoint, the most important one is around the next generation education, right? So if you actually need to ensure that your sustainability can be actually cascade towards your next generation, you need to ensure that your next generation can achieve the best education possible, right? So that's why our family office provide a lot of focus around the next generation education. And then risk management, right? There are a lot of risks that from a corporate and family standpoint, you need to actually need to consider, no matter for physical risk, transitional risk, health risk, or other kind of regulatory risk. So our family office will also take a risk management perspective to help you to mitigate all those different risks. Residency planning. In order to mitigate some of the risks, you might actually need to consider some of the immigration as well as residency planning for your family as well. So that's why our family office will also have a strong focus helping different family to actually achieve some of the immigration planning ahead of time. Asset allocation. So from a family as well as corporate standpoint, you also need to have a very robust asset allocation in order that your family as well as corporate will have the financial health in order to protect the sustainability of your corporation as well as your family. Succession planning, we just talked about that just now. And then around family governance. This is also the most important that you actually need to consider from a family as well as corporate standpoint. How can we actually improve the governance of your family, right? So a lot of time from a family succession standpoint, they only talk about the legacy that actually live around the next generation, but they actually did not actually focus around how they actually cascade the values as well as the structure in place to let the next generation understand how they can actually improve the sustainability of their family as well as their corporate. So this is just a quick snapshot around all the different family office services that we provide for different corporations as different families. So I won't go into details. If you are interested in any of those services, so feel free to get in touch with me. So with that, so this is the end of my presentation, and I will just leave my WhatsApp contact here with you. If you want to actually get in touch with me, feel free to scan the QR code here, and you can actually get in touch with me on WhatsApp. I will actually just want to give you a complimentary 45 minutes consultation on ESG as well as our family office services for all the participants from Hong Kong as well as from mainland China. So that is the end of my presentation. I'll pass over back to Rita for wrap up or Q&A.
Okay, so thanks, Eman, for the very educational session, right? Firstly, you touch on this group 1, 2, 3 emissions, and then you further touch on the mandatory reporting by some of the jurisdictions in Asia Pacific. Then after that, about the HR side is about the 5 levers, right? Namely the employer branding, T&D, succession planning, incentive and rewards. And lastly would be the sustainable procurement. And lastly would be the sustainability in the family office space. Okay, thank you, Eman. Thank you so much. And we are running out of time, especially at the beginning. We have some technical issues. Okay, so any closing remarks for us, Eman?
Okay. Closing remark is that ESG is actually very important for different corporations, no matter for large corporation or even for small and medium company. So feel free to get in touch with us if you actually need to do any consultation on ESG, as well as want to understand more about our family office services. So feel free to get in touch with me or get in touch with Rita to get my contact as well. And my phone number and email is here. So you can actually get in touch with me either on WeChat, WhatsApp, or phone number.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, there is a delay in LinkedIn, right? So at the time that Eman asked us throw a question on where our participants are based, basically there is a delay in LinkedIn. So now we can see some of the responses in the comment box. Like Wong is from Malaysia, Pam from Hong Kong, and Lee is from Indonesia, and so on. And Wong would love to have a slide deck from Eman. So Wong, I suggest that you contact Eman directly so that he can send you the PPT deck. Is that
Yes,
okay?
please, yeah.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much, Eman, for the wonderful session. And I think in under the sustainability in the family office space, right? You talk a lot about the governance, family governance. So governance is one of the key components in sustainability and also in ESG. So we have a separate session on governance so that all of our participants will be more familiar with this important topic. Okay, so that's I think now we already conclude our session, and so we will continue with our series of sustainability with business. And next week we'll talk about employee well-being, and we are going to have a panel discussion, and we have invited 3 excellent speakers to share of their views in this topic. So just stay with us, and I'll see you next Wednesday, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.